Time now for another check of your weather forecast. Brittany, you're also looking ahead to possible storms tomorrow.
Yes, I think that if people live in the Charlotte metro, they probably today thought, what storms? Because they only really stayed in the northern Piedmont up to the mountains and foothills. The wind gusts that we had that recorded damage were in Burke County, Caldwell County, Catawba, parts of Iredell, Alexander, and even northern areas there in Burke and Caldwell too. Now, because of that risk, right, and now it's shifting south and east, we need to pay better attention if you live across our main 5 counties here. So think Mecklenburg County over toward Cabarrus County, Union, Lincoln, Gaston, as you get closer to the 485 loop there in the center of the Charlotte metro. Now, because of this area, you can see along and east of the Charlotte metro, this will also include a few friends or family members over toward Greensboro, Raleigh-Durham, Southern Pines, and even toward places like Darlington and Bennettsville there in South Carolina, because this risk does expand all the way east to the immediate coastline. Now, we're not completely done with storms yet, but in the Charlotte metro, again, not seeing any of that. There's one storm that's really kicking up gear here in Chester County. You can see between Chesterfield and Patrick. Now, while I'm not seeing a lot of support for a lot of hail, as we look at some of these areas here shaded in pink, there is indication that if these storms are able to grow even a little bit more, we're looking at pea to penny sized hail in some of these thunderstorms. There is a decent amount of lightning strikes, about 10 in the last 15 minutes. So if you're in Chesterfield County and you're hearing the loud booms, just please make sure to stay inside until everything is wrapped up. Again, with the exception if you're already inside, you don't have to worry about making that change. Now, this afternoon, storms started right around lunchtime in those mountain communities and kind of fizzled out by the time they got to Charlotte. Because of an approaching storm system, I do expect them to travel a little bit farther south and make it to the metro. I would say mainly after 3 o'clock. This could be multiple rounds, so it's not just going to be one line and we're done. But Monday sees kind of the same exact pattern here. We start off mostly dry with more widespread storms in the afternoon. So both Sunday and Monday will bring in that low to moderate risk of strong storms, main impact here gusty winds, before we do look to be a little bit drier on Tuesday. Here's again the biggest impacts. We're this time of year almost never going to see a complete 0% chance of a tornado, but I would put that at, let's say, less than 1%, if not even lower than that. Winds, that's going to be your primary risk here. We're in the medium level, and flooding is really going to be a concern only in the slow-moving storms or areas that already saw flash flooding. Think about last Sunday, last Monday, where we saw those really slow-moving storms that just kind of sat over the same places. Those would be the areas we'd be more so concerned about flooding. And speaking of flooding, we're starting to see increasing risk here that a low pressure system in the Gulf could become tropical over the next 7 days. We've bumped it up to about 40 to 50% from the National Hurricane Center. Now, I am not concerned about this here in the Carolinas because regardless of what happens with this system, more moisture coming into the Carolina coast is essentially a given because this low pressure system and another weak area of low pressure expected to develop in the Western Atlantic will create a boatload of tropical moisture over the next couple of days. You can see here that low trying to develop here off the Gulf Coast. So we'll be watching it for our friends down here. But again, I'm not concerned about a Big Bend landfall and it moving up. I am only watching this area, of course, because of folks who are living here, potentially getting higher impacts like gusty winds and even some beach problems there with gusty winds and high rip currents, whereas we're watching the immediate western part of the Atlantic because that means more tropical moisture closer to home. So it could eventually turn into a 1-2 punch, but both of them bring us more wetness. Here's that rainfall forecast over the next 5 days. You can see it's primarily near the immediate coast, but if we get lucky, even 1 to maybe 1.5 inches of rain, even right here in Charlotte. Here's a look at that Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Again, more rain heading into next week, but it's going to be beneficial nonetheless.